Hey!
And this is my wife and my 3 kids. We're all so grateful, like beyond grateful. I got 2 friends here from my world that I've known since like high school or whatever. My friend Rob lives in Denver. I believe he brought 58 joints. So we could celebrate anybody who wants to do that at the end. And other than that, I think, Hal probably is gonna talk more than me because I will just cry. But thank you very much.
What was that, Dave? You said 58 joints?
Yeah.
For you and one pass around.
Cheers to my brother.
Cheers.
Cheers to Mike.
Over here, Kyle. What a bunch of derelicts. Yeah. Love it. Where's the derelict? My prize derelict. Come on.
I'm good here. Well, we didn't do your thing. I was just gonna say we thought maybe
I just wanted to invite everybody to say a few words about him. I'm going to start and see if I can make it through my 2-page document. Hey now.
Hey now.
Mike or Michael, please, never Mikey. He had a lot of names, but we all knew Mike as the self-proclaimed fastest guy on the mountain, the best weed grower in Colorado, and the hardest motherfucking rock and roller around. Fuck yeah! Back in the 80s, we kind of known each other casually for a couple years, but then the first time we bonded, of course, was over music. I was in my room at 1050 Waters. I was putting a Montrose CD into my player, and Mike walks by. He's like, "Dude, you listen to Montrose?" He didn't say "dude" because he never said "dude." And then we bonded over music, and we got to be really good friends over that. And lots of music shows, lots of good times doing that. Pilgrimages to the Allman Brothers, the Stones. He was especially proud knowing that many of his idols in the music business had partaken in one of the fatties he had thrown on stage. Much to the delight of Keith Richards, Warren Haynes, or any of the other rock and roll artists that he loved that he knew smoked weed. He even went so far a few times to write his phone number on the joints that he was throwing to Keith on stage. Because his ultimate dream was to become their personal weed concierge. It never happened, unfortunately. He'd probably still be with us. He and I also shared a common hatred of dysfunction. It could be something as simple as the way people drive on Highway 82, or seating arrangement at Red Rocks, or the way things were going on the hill. He was, of course, very vocal about these things, more so than I am, but he's always said it like it is, and he felt it, and he definitely let you know what he did when he didn't like something. I'm not sure if he complained more about the way other people skied, or if people complained about the way he skied more. Somewhere in between, I don't know, 50-50. The choice of music, of course, in any particular establishment, including the Gondola Building, was a common point of emphasis for Mike. He hated bad music. He could also get kind of angry, especially at concerts when the show ended without the band or the authorities consulting him. He wanted fucking whipping pose, come on, whipping pose! Whipping pose! Leave him alone! Leave him to play! Yeah, that was a good night. I learned a lot from him. He was a gifted teacher. He taught me how to ski Aspen Mountain properly. How to find a great seat at Red Rocks, how to roll a joint, but I suck at that still. And so many other things. Most recently, he taught me how to grow things in my garden at home, and whether it's house plants or flowers, I got a fuck ton of stuff. Ever since he brought his plants to my house, everything started thriving. I don't know what happened. Many of us learned also not to follow him down certain paths. Sometimes it was downright fucking scary to be with him. In the VW bus going over the pass, or in the LTD going 100 miles an hour down I-25 with a bottle of tequila in the hand and a joint, listening to something really loud and just flying on our way. It was just fucking scary. Somehow we always made it home safely, I think. Maybe not all of us. He had good luck that way and could almost always make his way to the closest and best seats in any venue. And there's so many concert stories. I'll just tell a couple. The one, I'm going to be really brief about this, but we were at Fiddler's Green, Crazy Horse, Neil Young. Mike, of course, was posted up on the hood of his LTD, rolling joints, had everything sitting out there, going beers. His ticket was laying on the fucking windshield, and the wind blew it away. He's like, fuck, where's my ticket? Couldn't find it anywhere. So we started wandering around, trying to find it. Finally found it 100 feet away underneath a fucking car tire. Lucky. Another time, this is a post-concert story. Well, we were living on Waters Avenue, and he and a few other people were coming home late at night from a show at Red Rocks, I believe, that I couldn't go to. They rolled in the door pretty loud and rowdy and woke us up around 3. I think Mike was probably still pretty high on acid and very excited. And he tried to run from our living room to the deck, but didn't realize that the sliding glass door was closed. He flew right through it, and was right above my bed. And this crazy crash came down, made an incredible noise right above my head, and I thought, what the fuck? And I jumped out of my bed, ran up the stairs to see him standing there, just shocked, but not a scratch. And he just went, fuck yeah, let's party. It's crazy times. Fuck yeah!
Oh, yeah!
I wish I could go back in time to when he was still that carefree. Who else? Chris?
I got a couple of stories.
No, I'll wait.
I hope I can make this through there. I'm glad Hal brought
That's
up.
why I printed it, because I didn't want to listen.
I'm really glad you brought up Red Doors. That's where Craig Hahn introduced me to all these guys, Derek and Hal and Rick and George. Kyle. I don't know how many other people too. I mean, the Red Doors was like a revolving door of people, all of which, a lot of which are still around here, which is awesome. A lot of party times in that little building. So I collected a lot of clothes over the years, and the reason I picked this sweater to wear today was I bought it in 1982 when I was in high school. Mike was only like 3 years out from getting here in Aspen, I think. And you know, I was on the ski race team in high school, and when I got out here and I met Mike, I still had this thing. I hadn't stopped racing in college, and but I knew this was a cool sweater because one day Mike goes, dude, you got to sell me that sweater. I'm like, well, it's kind of bad luck, Mike, because now that you told me you really like it, that must mean it's really cool. So there's no way I'm letting go of this thing. That's one of my favorite memories of Mike. I probably ought to ask Gorp to tell this story, but he told it to me yesterday, and I'm going to repeat it here now. So I came up here yesterday just to see how much snow was up here and where we could meet and figure it out, just make sure we were going to be good. And I stopped in the patrol shack. I used to ski patrol at Snowmass, and I actually just went back last year part-time, trying to relive my ski bum days. But I stopped in there to talk to the guys and try to get the lay of the land and see if we could maybe sneak into that wedding platform, but that didn't seem like a good idea. So we got to talking and telling Mike stories, and Gorp told this story about, which could have been on any given day, mind you, but he told the story of Mike ripping down Little Nell, you know, at his typical 60 or 70 miles an hour, and going right past a family, you know, the way he loved to do. He would not give anybody very much room.
He liked to buzz people.
He liked to buzz people, crop dusting. So he did that at the bottom of Little Nell, and there were a couple of smaller kids in that group, and the father took exception to that. He did not like it. and they were close enough to the bottom of the hill that he was able to catch up to Mike, which if it was higher up, there was no way that would have happened. But he did, and he let Mike know how he felt about him buzzing his family. Well, Mike was not in a good mood that day. He barked right back. And so there was a little back and forth and maybe even a little shove. Unfortunately for Mike, the mountain manager, John Reveal, happened to see that happen. That was bad news for Mike because he lost his pass for the rest of that season. And John threatened to kick him off for life.
He was banned for life.
So Mike's conversations to me during that time was he was freaking out. He didn't know what he was gonna do. He told me different places he was thinking about moving to. He didn't want to leave his beloved Aspen Mountain for sure, and not the city of Aspen either. So, you know, I didn't know what he was gonna do. But somehow he went and talked to John, and John agreed that if Mike would spend a week with the ski patrol and learn what they were about and get to know him, then he, you know, maybe they would reconsider, would see how the week went. Well, not only was that Mike's idea, hell, I guarantee you that was the ski patrol's idea too. Like you say, why were they punishing you guys? But anyway, make a long story long, he came up here and worked with these guys, and the most positive thing that came out of that whole deal was that he gained a lot of respect for the patrol, and I like to think that the patrol gained some respect for Mike for coming and doing that, and you know, working his way back up into the place that he really wanted to be. So that I think was a good thing. I mean, he was not a guy for authority.
I was gonna say that might be the only punishment he would have ever willing to have accepted.
How do you think ever was like come in hot like that and just shoot off and take all the ski racks out? Yeah, he was really good at skiing fast, but he was not so good at stopping. Art has a story about him stopping.
Oh man, I couldn't tell you at this point, but probably somewhere 93, 94 in there. That's what I would guess.
Well, since already everybody's ripping on Mike, the main thing I'm going to miss is the sights and sounds of Aspen Mountain. Some old guy at the bottom of the gondola yelling at Mike because he almost ran over his wife.
That
did happen a lot.
Hundreds of times probably.
Yeah. You know, I also thought yesterday of about a few of the things that I remember about Mike, and one of them is riding up the gondola. And I was working for the ski company at the time, and they were pretty strict. This was before pot was legal, and you know, I knew enough of the guys up here. I didn't really love getting to the top of the hill because when Mike rode up, everybody in the gondola had this expectation that there was going to be a joint come out. Because there was pretty much every ride he took up the gondola.
3 minutes left to the top.
So, but he didn't start it, over Copper. He didn't start it over right past the top of Bell. Maybe he fired up over the race course. Maybe. And then by the time you got to the top, you were just in a Cheech and Chong deal. Exactly. That sucker would open up and the smoke would just billow right out. The lift operators would be grinning, and they were wishing they could have a little bit of that too. But
Probably got contact when he opened up the doors.
so I loved that. I mean, it annoyed me, and I loved it at the same time. It was pretty cool.
One time we got to the top, same thing, and there was a deputy sheriff standing there going, "Come on, guy."
That wasn't me.
I did deal with him a little bit in that deputy, but
Right.
it kind of helped having the contact with him on the patrol. I kind of had him for that week, a lot of it. We cut a lot of trees, and he had to do a lot of chucking
And he's, you know, I always wondered how these lines got here. I just thought they were always here. So I gave him a little appreciation for it. And then I think it helped on the patrol. He hated it, but we started calling Convict Mike because he had to come on and he had to go out on the chain gang and put his work in, and then he got his pass. And so that kind of helped, and then it helped, well, Dom knows, in the city, sometimes having the contact with him, once you had a little rapport and you got a little respect for each other, it was a lot easier to deal with him. And he'd deal with you, was a respect thing, and until you got that, with him, he could be a little difficult.
I love the guy.
Yeah, exactly.
I grew up in an Italian family, so I was used to being
No, really? You?
Italian?
Yeah.
I like the label maker. We'd get in and he'd make a label that says, do not put ski boots on seats. And I appreciated that because I'm a germaphobe. And he would say, you know, people, they're in the urinal and then they get, you know, on their ski boots and then they put them on the freaking seat.
So I met Mike in the early 90s at the Red Doors because I was like banging on the door, and nobody was answering. I walk up the stairs and he's on the top floor where his bedroom was, and I'm like, hey, do you have a room for? He's like, what are you doing in here, man? Like, he's like, go talk to that guy over there. And I'm like, great, I'm gonna live here. So George Mix was doing a remodel. Is George Mix here? I don't know. Anyway, and he's like, hey man, he's like, what, you know, this and that. And I'm like, whoa, what's up? He's like, no, it's all good. So, and it turned out in early 90s, Mike had the best character of anyone I've ever known in my entire life. Like, he would never lie. He would tell you. I'll give an example. We were in the beer store, and he couldn't not be honest. And the guy, the kid is like, you know, he's coming over, and Mike in beer is like an important thing. It's like, you know, how you guys going to, you know, when we went to the Anchor in San Fran, Stone shows. And Mike's like, oh God, okay, what is this idiot gonna tell me today? And the guy's like, oh, you know, this is a really good beer. And you know, and it was like the kid's favorite beer or something. And Mike goes, no, it's not. Like right then again, not like, no, I don't really like it or whatever. He's like, no, it's not. So one time we were going to a show, we were going to see The Who, and Pat Benatar the whole time he's like, oh, you really like Pat? And I didn't really know, you know, I never really, he's like, got to see Pat Benatar. And so we get there and the wind's blowing, you can't get over Vail Pass, and he's like, go through Minturn or whatever. And so we're driving, and I can't see the road, any road anywhere. We can't see the road. And he's looking out the window of my pickup saying how far from the guardrail you're on the road from Minturn to like Leadville or however you get to Denver. He's like 2 feet, wow, get over. And I'm like, dude, we could have just waited on Vail Pass, man. I'm like freaking out. I can't see the road. And he's telling me how far from the guardrail I am. He's like, and on the whole while, I was like, should have taken the Saab. And I'm like, whatever, you know? It's just like, come on, man, you know? It's just like, so we get there. He misses Pat Benatar, The Who come on or whatever. And there's a guy there, and he's like, oh yeah, we were there at the same time, and they opened Vail Pass like 5 minutes later. So, and Mike's like, yeah, well, you know, it's whatever. We did the right thing. No, we didn't. We didn't. We could have waited 5 freaking minutes, but you didn't want to wait. So we were going to another show, and Justin, who's here somewhere, was in the other car, and I was in a car, I think, with Micah. And we get out of the car. We stop at this place in like Avon or somewhere, a pizza place, and I've driven to hundreds of concerts with Mike. And we get out of the car, and we just happen to be with Justin, and we're about to get food, and we asked, hey Justin, how's the ride going? And Justin goes, not without stress.
So many white knuckle rides ago.
So we were at Red Rocks, and he'd be talking, I know this happened probably more than once, but he would just go up and he would talk. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna get up there, and he'd give you all the stuff and say, you know, you're slow, just take the stuff. I'm running down, and he'd take whatever he had, right? And he'd run down. So one time he was up there before the show opened, before they let anybody in at the top of Red Rocks. He's talking to this woman. All of a sudden he's missing, and I don't know who was there. You were probably there, and he's gone. And we're like, oh no, you know, Mike, and he like. And we're like, did he get busted or something? And you know, because he would take, all right, I don't want to offend anybody, but he would take this little silver box of kind joints and put it here. And he'd always go like right to me, and I'd be standing there, he's like, can you see anything? And I'm like, dude, get away from me, man. You know, I'm like, you're fine, whatever. He's not gonna pat you down there. Jeez. So anyway, so he winds up like 4th row or something. He got down, he talked her into it, and he just went down there, you know? And a couple of things. If I'm wrong, tell me. It's pronounced Lees, right? Mike would say, he's like, it's not Mike Lees. It's Mike Lees. That's what he would tell me.
That's how my dad said it. I don't know.
Like, that's what he said. And you know, he talked about you, and he talked about his dad and Skeen and his mom and everybody, and he was just the most honest, righteous person you ever could meet. Oh, and there's one last thing. So I lived with Mike in the early 90s, and he was like, what, you know, it was like Kyle was there, and George, and Kavod, and all those guys. Yeah. And so the biggest thing was you go to Eric's or whatever, and you leave Eric's, and Mike rolls these kind joints, and he's like, and the rule was, if you're gonna smoke the kind joint, you had to sit on the hood of the police car. The cops would park the car in town, they do their rounds, but you couldn't smoke it unless you sat on the hood. He's like, you sit in the kindest bud. You got, you want to hit, you got to sit up on the police car. And that was.
He also stick his road.
Leave the roads on the.
That was awesome. I just gotta say one thing about the righteous dude. Okay, I got 2 stories about my righteous brother. So he had this really badass 1970 Mustang fastback. It was one, yeah. It was badass. Candy apple red, black stripe up it, and he loved to go fast, not only on skis. And we were ripping from Grand Rapids. There's this little road. It's called M45, and the speed limit's 45. And we're ripping down M45, going about 75. And we're smoking pot, and we're in his car, and rock music playing. And all of a sudden, a cop does a U-ey. And my brother looks at me and says, "Are you ready for this?" And I said, "I don't know." And he said, "Grab the steering wheel." So I took the steering wheel, and he fucking jumped into the back seat of the car. So I'm like, shit, I slide over. I'm like, I get pulled over. Had to go to court. I'll tell you another one. He did this to me twice. The second time, same car, different road, he's all alone. And he's like 35 or 40 over the speed limit again. Reckless driving in Michigan, I don't know if it is out here. So he gets pulled over and tells the cop that he doesn't have his license on him. And the cop's like, well, you know, you just produce your license, blah, 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 but I get a speeding ticket. What's your name? Dave Lease. So I got a ticket for that too. Had to go to court. Yeah. So yeah.
Righteous.
Also, one last thing. So this is my bio daughter. So she's the oldest one, and when he last came visiting me, well, that's not true. One of the times he came visiting me, my son was just born, so she was like 3. and he decided it was the proper age to teach her how to prune the bushes, the shrubs. Like, she's plenty old, Dave. This is an important lesson. Like, he spent like a half an hour with a 3-year-old in the backyard trimming bushes, and I'm like,
Real bushes, not pot.
yeah, no, she's 3. Like, she probably doesn't even remember.
And he had me pouring beer in his mouth on the beach. I'd sit on top of his chest and I'd just pour his Corona on
have you feed him beer. Yeah.
or sing him the White Stripes.
He was a very honest person, but he did have his moments.
I love the guy.
Listen, Mike was so fast. You like to, all right, my name's Tim, Yo Bro, if anybody doesn't know me.
What's up, Yo Bro?
I've done a lot of hikes with him and stuff, but go back to how fast he was. We were taking shelter from some lightning storm one day. He's stashing that box, that metal box he has. We're putting it up in the rocks and shit, man. And like, we're hanging out, and the lightning's like striking down below us, It's like pretty hairball. And so we finally get ready to make a move, and he's got the metal box out, and he's got it like this. So we're hiking down. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, well, the metal lightning comes, I'm gonna drop it. I'm like, so you're faster than lightning, right? So I'm gonna drop that, right? Anyway, so I just started laughing. I'm running downhill, man. The lightning's coming down. He's got this box out. But yeah, faster than lightning.
I have 2